Buddy.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Orland Park Chamber membership meeting. I'd like to take this moment to acknowledge our premier members. It is because of their continued support of the Chamber that we can have informative programs like this today. Joe Rizza Ford, Nothing Bundt Cakes, Edwards Realty Group, Fox's Pizza, Maxim Maintenance, Vegan Teas, McAllister Deli, SAS Anesthetics, Bonefish Grill. And now it is my distinct honor to introduce today's moderator for today's program, Elliot Richardson. Elliot is the co-founder and president of the Small Business Advocacy Council, an organization laser focused on advocating for the small business community. The Chamber is grateful for the growth and partnership with SBAC, and welcome, Elliot.
Thank you so much, Joyce. And we are equally thankful for our partnership with the Orland Park Chamber of Commerce and for the members who are on this Zoom or may watch this later. Your chamber is doing incredible work for the businesses in Orland Park and to spark economic development. So thank you. I'm going to take 2 minutes before we introduce the candidates just to talk about two things that we're working on with the Orland Park Chamber of Commerce. One is the RISE Act, which would be a tax credit that would go to small businesses that retrain and hire folks who lost their jobs or businesses because of COVID. So thank you for your partnership on that. And the second is legislations and initiatives to make the business interruption program, if there's more grants coming down the pike, which we think there will be, there's a lot of federal money that will likely come into Illinois, to make that more transparent, a better process, and a process that reaches many more businesses than the original big grant. So thank you for working on those among many other initiatives with us. Thank you to the trustee candidates that are on Zoom today. How we're going to work this is I'm going to give all of you an opportunity to introduce yourself for a couple minutes. I would probably keep it to 2 minutes each. And then what we'll do is we'll go to questions. We had the Orland Park members submit some questions. I believe we'll also get some questions in the Q&A here, and we'll take it from there. As I mentioned beforehand to the candidates, we will ask one of you a question, and then as a collective unit, you're all on the same slate, essentially. You'll be able to jump in and provide answers and complement one another. So thank you for joining us. And with no further ado, Sean, I'm going to start with you. Would you introduce yourself to the folks listening on Zoom?
Sure. Thank you, Elliot. And thank you both to the Chamber and the SBAC for hosting this today. I know with a mayoral election, it's a lot of the attention is placed on them, but I'm happy to see that you want to hear from us as well. So thank you for hosting this today. My name is Sean Compass. I met my wife, Taryn, here in Orland Park 16 years ago. She was born and raised here, and she convinced me that this is the best place for us to raise our family. Although I don't think that she ever thought that I'd be so into loving Orland that I'd be running for public office one day. So she's still a little bit surprised by that. I got involved with the village in probably the way that most people do. There was a project near my home that I didn't know enough about. And so I attended a village meeting where that topic was being discussed because I wanted to learn more. And this was just after the last mayoral election. And to be honest, I was a bit dismayed and disappointed by what I saw amongst the trustees at the time, who clearly were still upset over the results of that election. And during that meeting, I learned a little bit more about the commissions. And I decided that I wanted to do more in my community and serve. And not too much longer after that, I found myself volunteering for the Technology Commission, which I now have become the chairman of. Over time, just before the 2019 election, there was an ethics ordinance that was passed that I didn't necessarily agree with. I thought it was a poor draft. And so I ended up volunteering more of my time, about 10 months, co-authoring with with two past trustees and a current trustee, a new ethics ordinance, which I believe to be a great model for other municipalities to adopt. Has a great process and really a very secure foundation to making sure that our ethics are strong going forward. During the past summer, I was concerned about the amount of anti-police sentiment that I saw going on in our communities. I'd gone out and had a blue ribbon campaign where I was helping others tie blue ribbons onto their trees, but decided that that wasn't enough for me either. So I ended up also volunteering to become a volunteer for the Orland Park Police Department as part of their emergency services and disaster agency. So for career-wise, for the last 20 years, I've been a technology consultant, which means that I like to solve complex problems and build tailored solutions. I work with a lot of different types of stakeholders that have different ideas, and I want to be able to make sure that I create tailored solutions for them. I see becoming trustee as a next step for me to be able to apply those skills in a new way to better serve this community.
Thank you, Sean. Tony, would you introduce yourself? So you got it. Yeah, there you go.
I got to unmute.
Yes.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you to the SBAC and the Chamber for hosting us and giving this opportunity for us to introduce ourselves and answer some of your questions. I am a resident of Orland Park. I moved here about 4 years ago. Just fell in love with this town. I had met the mayor at an event shortly after I had moved here and started talking to him, and he had asked me to volunteer to be part of his economic development and advisory board. So I've been working in a volunteer capacity for the mayor and for the village for the past couple of years. And I've gotten an opportunity just to hear what's happening in the village and just all the back and forth, just, you know, with the board. And I mean, things that he's trying to do, he's accomplished a lot. There's so much more that we want to do to continue forward momentum for Orland Park. And, you know, I welcome the opportunity to continue to, you know, serve and to do that and to be a trustee. So a little bit about me. I am a graduate of DePaul University. I have a degree in business administration. I work at a law firm downtown. I'm a director of marketing and business development, where I work with attorneys on their client retention plans, business development plans, focused on being strategic. And I want to be able to weave that experience that I have into the position as trustee to help our small businesses. Small business is big business, and it's important to the village. So I want to hear what you know, what are your concerns? You know, how can I help you? You know, definitely ask me questions. I want to be able to work with the businesses, you know, for your success. Obviously, we're all dealing with the pandemic, but you know, or the pre-pandemic issues, there's going to be post-pandemic issues. So just besides that, there's going to be some other things, and I you know, I definitely want to help. I've always served in volunteer positions. So like I said, I've been on the Economic Development Advisory Board for the past few years. I also work with Sean on the Technology Commission for the village. Prior to that, I was on the board for the Legal Marketing Association. So I want to be able to weave that board experience that I currently have into this position.
Thank you, Joni. Brian, your introduction.
Thank you. As everyone said, thanks for having us here and giving us this opportunity. My name is Brian Reardon. I've been in Orland Park approximately 10 years. I have 4 children. My wife and I, you know, we love Orland Park. We use all the services. We use the parks. We use the dining, the shopping, and so I've enjoyed that over the last 10 years. I volunteer with all the sports activities. I've been a coach of just about every sport there is for one or more of my children. I'm on the District 135 Parent Advisory Board for Personnel and Policy. And so, you know, why I'm running and how I got interested, I've known the mayor about 9 years now, and talking with him about a lot of things that are going on in Orland Park, I look at it as a service opportunity to give back for some of the things that, you know, me and my family have been able to enjoy over the last 10 years. Professionally, I'm an attorney. I work at a law firm in the city. We have about 250, 275 employees. I'm on the board of the firm. And so a lot of those skills, a lot of those, you know, working with employees, working with HR, working with insurance and contracts and vendors, I think a lot of those skills will, you know, translate into dealing with some of the issues that the board has. I represent, as part of my practice, what I do is I represent small businesses and professionals in various states of either litigation or contracts and things like that. So I really understand some of their needs. So again, I look at it as an opportunity to serve, and I enjoy Orland Park, and I think some of those skills can translate. So thanks again.
Thank you, Brian. I'm going to stay with you right now. I'm going to ask the
Sure.
first question. Now, this question is a broad question, okay? And you can encompass your thoughts on things like the mall, the I-88 corridor. It's really about economic development. Now, we can drill down after the initial question, but Brian, my question to you, and then to Joni and Sean to jump in, is how are you going to spark economic development in Orland Park? As we come out of this pandemic, thinking about all of the things that Orland Park has to offer, and those are considerable. What would your plan be and your recommendations for economic development?
So the way I've looked at it in terms of what a government can do, what a village board can do, and I think that there's a baseline that all governments need to do. They need to go out there. They have to have professionals that are out there seeking the opportunity, marketing the town, and we do that. And I think Orland's done that for years. What I think we can distinguish ourselves in being more attractive is how we run government. Okay, I think being ready for when that opportunity does come along, when we come out of this pandemic, and there's some major retailer, there's some major manufacturer that is looking at that site. How we look different than somebody downstate or out west is that we have such a clean balance sheet. We have we've positioned ourselves financially to be able to offer the incentives that these large retailers, large big companies that would want. And I think we need to be transparent. Companies want to go to towns where they see, there's not a lot of red tape. They see the process for what it is. There's not some sort of a special deal where a company down the road got some, different, ordinance or some different ruling in terms of their density or the amount of parking space they have to have. Businesses don't like that. They don't like to be treated differently, than their neighbor down the street. So I think as a board and as a town, what they need to be able to do is handle both. When there's an opportunity, they're ready to pounce on it. And then also when there's a problem like COVID that comes along, they're in a financial position to offer incentives, to offer, waiving of license fees, to offer some tax rebate on the sales receipts, things like that. And I think a great example of how the staff currently situated is the Caputo's situation. He came in and spoke within 3 days of being contacted. They already had a meeting. That's nimble. That's being ready to go in terms of handling those types of opportunities. Because again, I think as a baseline, everybody's got to be out there doing the marketing, putting those the videos together, reaching out to businesses, and that's something that you expect everybody should be doing at all times. But the next step down the road is being ready as a board, to pounce on those opportunities. So,
thank you, Sean. Weigh in, please.
Yeah, so I think one thing that I'd add to that is I wish Orland Park was in a bubble, but the reality is with the state of Illinois right now, state of Illinois is dead last in fiscal stability. And we have what is very likely going to be an increasing tax burden. It's unfortunate, but I think for us in Orland Park, what we need to make sure that we're continuing to do is that we're managing the finances of the village appropriately, that we're paying down our debt, that we're a government body that knows how to keep our fiscal policies straight so that businesses want to be here and they know that they're not going to see the bottom fall out from underneath them here as well. I want the city of Chicago to prosper and to grow, but unfortunately we're seeing that Houston's likely going to surpass them in population. Illinois is one of 2 states in this last census that has lost population over time, and Pennsylvania has overtaken us as a more populous state. And that means that businesses are going too. And so I think that we can build upon what Mayor Peacock has started with the coalition by working with Mokena and Tinley Park on that I-80 corridor to jointly market that as an alternative for businesses that maybe don't want to pay the higher rents of the city, but still want to stay in Illinois or don't want to transplant all of the people that work for them to a different location. And so I think the I-80 corridor is still an unrealized opportunity that needs to grow. I know we heard in the past that Andrew Corporation had been interested in them. I don't know why that didn't happen for them, but I think we need businesses to start looking at that. And I think it's going to take some investment of marketing dollars to make sure that folks know, that small businesses know that's a great opportunity for them, and with great access to the highways.
Thank you, Sean. Joni, can you talk to us a little bit about your ideas for economic development in Orland Park?
I second what Brian and Sean said. I think that they pretty much covered everything. Yeah, I think it is just about marketing and letting people know that there are opportunities here. Where are those opportunities? Where are those vacancies? How can we fill them? Working with the businesses just to find the right fit. And definitely the I-80 corridor is a wonderful opportunity for specific types of businesses to be over there. And just with the ability to travel or down that highway.
All right, well, Joni, let me stay with you. Let's talk a little bit about the mall, which is a big economic driver in Orland Park. There's been some issues about security at the mall. Sean had mentioned, his thoughts just briefly about, sentiments about the police. My question to you is, what are your feelings about how to empower the mall to be that economic driver that Orland Park is looking for?
I think the biggest issue that we have is perception. The perception is, it's not safe, and the reality is that it is one of the safest places to be. It's one of the safest malls, so it is a large driver of economic development here in Orland Park. It has the largest amount of foot traffic. It's like in the top 1% of the malls in Illinois. And obviously, we want to have, police presence. We want to make sure that people feel safe and that they are safe at the mall. But I think it's about, getting the word out. Social media is, definitely a driver. And if, sometimes something happens and then, it just kind of, runs wild on social media, and a lot of times they're not actually true. But it's really about, building it out and letting it be known that it is a safe place to be. And so I think that's part of it, is just marketing it in that way, so people know that they can go to that mall and that they are safe, and that, it's not a dangerous place to be.
Sean, Brian, would you like to weigh in on that? And also you could add on to that, perhaps, how the new economy is going to have an impact on brick and mortar stores, and how to keep them all vibrant, given sort of a new reality that we're living in. So why don't we go Brian and then Sean?
Sure. It's a hot topic. It's a discussion that, it permeates all aspects, I think, of Orland Park. When you talk about safety, you talk about the perception. It brings in other businesses when it's doing well. And the reality is that, Chief Mitchell has worked very closely with both the mayor and with Simon Properties on the safety. They've upgraded numerous areas of it. The lighting on outside, the cameras, that the Orland Park Police have 24/7 access to that mall and their cameras. They actually, don't think a substation there is great for, the businesses having an actual police station, but they have access. They can get there within minutes. In fact, some of their video that they have is used to help track down the hit and run that occurred just outside the mall there. But I think you bring up a good point. Even before COVID, we obviously realized that the brick and mortar stores, the breadth of them, the number of them in the area, were not going to survive. But I think Orland Park, Orland Square Mall will. I think it's going to be the one that is going to survive, because look at the success of Von Maur. I mean, it's one of their best new stores in terms of reporting, in terms of sales that they've had. They're willing to come there. We have the movie theater that hopefully is going to get started again here now that things are opening up, and I think they're putting in the new policy for the weekends for the gathering after 3 or 4 o'clock for teens. I have 4 kids that are entering that age of that, and I have no problem with that as a parent. I should be there. If they're there at the mall, I should be around. I mean, I don't have to be walking right next to them all the time, but I should be right outside, that make sure that they're not getting themselves into even a little bit of trouble, even just the little things that do happen. So I think the mayor and I think the 3 of us all 100% back supporting and protecting that mall. And it's not certainly our position to have overburdened influence from the town. It's a commercial enterprise, and that's what it should stay. And you should work with Simon. We should have discussions with them monthly, if not even more often, when things are going on. We shouldn't ignore each other. And so it's a big driver for the town, and I think we need to protect it.
Yeah, so I wanted to, I think we've covered on the safety aspect a bit here, but I wanted to touch more on what you were saying as far as the future of brick and mortar stores. I think it's actually a large majority of my corporate clients tend to be in the retail space or the consumer goods and services space. And the reality is that brick and mortar retail peaked roughly in the 90s. A lot of people think that it's just now hitting this point where things are shifting. And so I don't have as much of a dire aspect or an outlook for retail. I actually think that with the pandemic and with most people, all people being more stuck at home and having less social engagement with each other, we might actually see the opposite happen in terms of once our retail begins to more fully open, where people are going back to the older concepts of retail therapy as a social exchange, as a means to be with each other. And I think that the retailers that are going to succeed in the future are going to be ones that focus more on an experience and what it's going to be like, and the interactions that they can provide and the additional value that they can provide to their customers. It's going to be less of a just going in and browsing experience. I don't know that people are going to be as interested in that when they have the Amazons of the world. But they do want to talk to people that understand those products. And so if you look at things like fashion or interior design or other aspects where people still want to see tangible products and they want to talk with an expert or a designer or someone that can give them advice, I think those are the retail stores that are going to be most successful in the future. And I think what we need to do is to continue to encourage and partner with Simon on getting those higher end valued stores in, see small businesses open up that can offer that experience as well. I like the performance-based incentives that the Orland Park has been doing over the past year. I think that makes a lot of sense in terms of tax sharing, because it both makes sure that the village doesn't have to put an outlay of dollars, an investment, but it's a shared investment and it's a partnership with those businesses. So as they perform better, they are getting more of their sales tax dollars back as revenue. So I'd like to see more of those types of programs, and to make sure that we're getting the best that we can out of that mall. That mall is very important. We have a symbiotic relationship with them.
So before you gave me a great transition, Sean, but before I go there, we had a question in the chat. Have you all had the opportunity to visit the mall recently and see what's going on at the mall in terms of economic activity and whatnot?
Yes, I was there last week with two of my children, and I saw that question as well. And I'm happy. I'm pleasantly surprised. I mean, there are people there. There are people enjoying themselves, laughing, and being social. I think, like Sean mentions, you got to look at the data to see what they're buying and things like that. But to be out and laughing and walking around, it was a pleasant experience with both my kids, and costly experience sometimes, but enjoyable for sure.
Great. Anybody else want to weigh in?
Well, actually, up until the pandemic struck, my wife worked at the mall. She was an interior designer there. So we were there quite frequently. We know that place inside and out. And I enjoy it. I think, as far as the perception is concerned, I'd like to see more of Orland Park be willing to go out and visit the mall. I think for those that are concerned about the element that they're seeing in the mall, I think if there's more of us there, and by us, I mean the residents, that value the mall and are shopping the mall, we can make that mall what we want it to be as a result of that. The mall will respond by us attending and engaging with them rather than avoiding them.
All right. So let me, Tony?
No, I was just unmuting.
Okay.
All right. I agree.
All right, great. So let me move. Sean gave me a great transition about people wanting to get outside and hopefully post-pandemic interact. And that leads me, Joni, to ask you about green spaces. Okay, this was a question we asked at the mayoral forum. Orland Park has wonderful green spaces, forest preserves, fields. How do you see that as an economic driver for the village, in terms of tournaments and really being able to use these green spaces to attract folks in, but to to also be part of economic development for the village of Orland Park, Joni?
Well, I think the green spaces is a drawing factor for Orland Park. People want to come here. I mean, we have wonderful parks. We have great, trails, people, if they're biking or walking or, golf courses. I mean, it's just a wonderful place that has a good draw where people want to come here. And then, they're here and obviously then, they might shop here and, eat at a restaurant here. And it is a driving factor because it attracts people to come to this town, and obviously the people who live here want to utilize those parks and those services. And of course, sports, recreation is also a drawing factor. Even the dog.
Thank you. Brian, Brian, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. With 4 children in sports, and I have some relatives in town that, sports, I love to see that. I love to see that. I've been to all kinds of other towns for tournaments and things like that. I would like to see, Orland, host one of these great big softball tournaments or baseball tournaments, things of that nature. But there's a balance. You got to keep, the spaces preserved, and I think we do. We have a lot of Cook County space, Forest River space that is used properly. With a lot of it, the natural resources are kept in, but you can wind a path, a bike path, or a walking path through there. I think we've done a good job, and this predates. Even the current administration. I give kudos to the past, to the development of that, the planning of Orland Park in that sense. I thought it was done well, and I think we continue to do that. But you got to take those opportunities where they come. And I think, my son plays hockey. I have daughter plays softball and soccer, and we have an opportunity here. We're centrally located, right? We talk about the highways, the corridor. Another hotel that would be close by to some of these parks could be a nice economic development opportunity, and bring more to the restaurants and things like that. I think we have the facilities now, and we got to utilize that. So again, a balance, but I do support moving forward with some additional, bringing some other towns and using their money to help support our businesses.
Sean, anything to add?
No, I just say it's about quality of life, right? I mean, it's in our Orland Park sub-model or the informal model of live, work, and play. They're a great place to live, work, and play. And that the emphasis on the play is important, right? People want to feel good about their surroundings and environment. And prior to 2019, I believe our schedule was we were replacing about 1 park every 2 years. It was not moving at a pace that we need to. And we have over, I believe the number is around 66 different parks and green spaces. So what the village board has done since is they've taken a more comprehensive view and looking and doing an assessment across the board. So as opposed to just replacing an entire park, we're looking at the areas of each individual park that are in poor condition and making sure that we're replacing the equipment and the facilities that most need replacement. And I'm happy to see that there's been a tremendous amount of progress on that. And I want to make sure that continues with investment.
Okay, so let me go to, of course, time always flies. So let me go to some questions now. We're going to try to get them in over the next 10, 15 minutes. Okay.
Sure.
All right. So let's talk about what happens. This is a hypothetical, right? If you've got a divided board in some way, shape, or form, right? And the need for unity and bipartisanship. So I'd like to know your thoughts on how to bring Orland Park together to help residents and businesses recover from the pandemic and thrive in the future. Sean, I'm going to start with you, but these are your thoughts on unity.
Sure. Yeah. So to be honest, I think that a board that's willing to have disagreements and have that open communication is important. To be honest, when Keith talked with each of us, I know this is especially true for me, he did not grill me about my political ideas. He doesn't know everywhere I stand. And in our conversations, we do disagree at times. And I think that amount of disagreement, especially in the career that I'm in consulting, you have to have a certain level of exchange of ideas. If everyone's on the same page and voting 7-0 on everything, you're not going to get enough disruption or enough change that moves things in a positive direction. And so I would welcome that. I would want it to be, I think everyone that has spoken with me or ever interacted with me knows that I take a very pragmatic and a non-confrontational approach to how I look at things. I may not always agree with everyone, but I do listen. And I think that's perhaps the most important part of all of this is that we need to listen. We're not going to be able to satisfy everybody. Not everyone's going to be happy with everything that we do as a board together. But I think we just need to make sure that we're putting the right thing and doing what we feel is, and by we, I mean something that we can live with, right? I mean, as I would say, it's got to be something that my mom would be proud of. And so I just want to make sure that, you know, we have that in exchange of ideas, that we're listening to people, that when there's times that we're going to have a decision that maybe some people don't agree with, that we're sharing our rationale and reasons why we believe that way. And I think that's the best that we can offer.
Joni?
I agree with what Sean said, and I think it is about, you know, being open-minded and having a collaborative approach. We are going to have, you know, views where we all agree, but then there's going to be times where, you know, we may have some different opinions on, you know, particular topics, and it's about listening and hearing, you know, what is it that the residents and businesses want, bringing that to the table. And I'm always good at listening and hearing that, and, you know, being able to advocate for other people. And for the businesses. But I think it is about having that collaborative approach and saying, like, okay, I hear what you're saying and that makes sense, but you know, here's another idea, and to be able to discuss that.
Thank you. Brian?
Yeah, the only thing I would add is that, you know, if there were some sort of a divided board, you know, my duty, my goal would be to what's best for Orland Park. And if I was able to express that, and I think, you know, the way the board meetings go, I'd be able to express that. And if it was different than, you know, somebody else on the board, as long as I'm pushing that for what I think is right for Orland, it's certainly not going to be confrontational. We're going to try to move things forward. I certainly don't expect it to be like it was the first year or so that the current mayor was in charge. I'm going to live here a long time. I got a 9-year-old at home. I'm not going to, you know, be someone who's going to go there and be an obstructionist just because I'm trying to prove a point, or someone that I supported didn't get elected. If I were on the board and there was, you know, some sort of disagreement, you know, you move on. I mean, as a lawyer, as a, you know, litigation, we deal with that all the time. You take your, you know, you make your point. If it's not successful, you move on and you try to, you know, do what's right for the most people.
Thank you. So your priorities, what's your number one priority coming in, Sean? You know, there's a lot of different things that you can work on, a lot of things that drive people to run for office. But coming in day one, what are you fighting for?
So honestly, I think right now, what's most important on my mind, outside of the economic development that we've already discussed, I think that would be number one. Close number two is making sure that the underlying infrastructure of the village is sound. It wasn't that long ago, I think maybe even just 2 years ago, when we did an assessment of our roads, 40% of our roads were in poor condition. And I think that, you know, perhaps the desire for short-term gains in chasing some ideas and what the board had wanted for the vision of Orland Park ran up our debt to $111 million, and all the while our roads were deteriorating. And so I want to make sure my first priority is making sure the board continues to prioritize what the village should be focusing on, which is infrastructure, which is public safety, which is economic development, the things that we know that we can do well, and getting less involved with trying to outthink the free market. I don't think that we should be spending our tax dollars trying to be real estate developers, or trying to be a bank, or doing some of the other services that we know that the public market serves much better than we do. So a strong foundation, paying down our debt, making sure that we're doing the things that the village is accountable for.
Thank you. Same question, Brian. Coming in, what's your top priority?
Yeah, I echo the economic part, so I'll just leave that at that. The second thing, or, you know, in conjunction with that, is the staff. You know, I have represented municipalities, school districts that have a lot of staff that are similar in nature, and, you know, that's their job, that's their livelihood. They're not in this, you know, they're not a politician, and I don't think any of us are politicians, but they're not in, you know, they're not doing it as a volunteer or this. This is their livelihood, and we got to give them the tools. And we got to bring in the best people. I think we've had really good people over the years. I think the marketplace is changing for people that are getting into government to work actually for government. And so I want to make sure we have those right people in place. I think George is doing a great job, and I want to make sure we give them the resources that can leak into the police force as well too. We need to give them, you know, every, you know, resource that they need. There's a terrible bill that's been passed that's going to make it more difficult for our police. But I think they're up to the challenge. I think we've already done a lot of the things that bill is going to require. So, supporting the staff and being there for them and giving them the tools so that they can help us make the right decisions.
Brian, you're referring to a state bill, correct?
I am, yes.
Yep. Okay. All right, great. Tony, what's your top priority?
Yeah, I'm definitely going to echo what Sean and Brian just said. Economic development is definitely a top priority. I think, continuing to move Orland Park forward, continuing to be transparent, supporting our employees, and making sure that we're having that collaboration. I think that's the most important thing, and
All right.
obviously safety.
So we have a question we're not going to get to about the Silver Lake Country Club, and I'm going to present that to everybody and ask that you guys weigh in on that, because maybe via writing, via email to us, so we can get that out with this. I apologize for that, but we have 3 minutes left. So what that will give is each one of you 1 minute to sort of close, and then we're going to move on to the next slate. So we'll just go in reverse order from when we started. So that will be Brian, Joni, and then Sean. Go ahead.
Sure. Again, thank you for having us. Thanks for all the people who logged on. Again, I've been here over 10 years. I'm going to be here a long time. I love this town, and I want to, see if I can help, serve to, continue to make it better, to continue to, work on some of the initiatives that have been going on the last couple of years. I think my skill set of representing businesses, representing townships and villages in those sense will help me do that. And so we appreciate your support.
Thank you, Joni.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, SBAC and Chamber, for having us. I appreciate the opportunity. Definitely if there are additional questions, we're happy to answer the questions regarding Silver Lakes. And if there's additional questions, you can feel free to email any of us. I'm at citizensforjoni@gmail.com. Definitely, send me your questions, and I'm happy to answer them. You may, if they weren't addressed today, but there are people who may be watching this recording later who don't have that opportunity to post their questions. You could certainly send an email, and one of us will get back to you.
Thank you so much. And Sean, you get to close us out here.
Okay. Well, thank you again, everyone, for having us here and hosting this. I'd just like to say that, in parting, over the last 20 years, I've been a business and technology consultant. And the way that I look at that is what I do in my career is I solve complex problems that my clients bring to me. And so the one thing I know for certain is I don't have all the answers. And there are bad consultants out there that'll come in and tell you they have all the ideas, they have all the right answers to something. But what I would tell you instead is what they've actually done is they've either oversimplified the problem or they haven't listened to their stakeholders. They haven't done enough to dig in and really understand the complex challenge that could be involved here. And so I would say the same thing is true for politics. What I think I bring to the table is a set of experience and skills to know how to take complex problems, break them down, and to tailor solutions to them. But I'm not going to tell you that I have all the answers right now. I need to hear more from the community. I want to see more, and I want to have further engagement with everybody. Thank you.
All right. Thank you to all three of you. Very much appreciated. And if people send us questions, we will get them out to you. And I apologize for any question that I didn't get to in this first round. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye, Brian. Bye, Sean.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Okay. We are going to
I gotta
jump.
log out here.
Oh, no problem, Brian.
I'm trying to figure out. There we go. My mouse.
Okay, we're going to jump right in right now to the second portion of the program for today, where we are going to hear from Amy Burrell. Is Chris Casmer is on, and I think we're waiting on Derek Rinaldi. But what we're going to do is start anyways. So, and I'm sure that he will be able to jump on while everybody else is introducing themselves. So, with no further ado, Amy, would you take a couple moments and introduce yourself to the folks on Zoom and talk about why it is that you are running for trustee of the Village of Orland Park?
Definitely. So, hi, everybody. I want to first of all start by thanking the Orland Park Area Chamber of Commerce and the SBAC for hosting this event. I think that this is a great way for residents and businesses in our community to hear what our plans are for Orland moving forward. So thank you again so much. But I am Amy Burrell. I am running for Village Trustee of Orland Park. Very excited for this opportunity. I grew up in Hickory Hills, but I've been coming to Orland all my life and finally made the move here 3 years ago when my husband and I purchased our first home. So we live right off of John Humphrey Drive with our two dogs, Bruce and Clark. They're great guys. Check me out on social media to see them. But so I am really excited to get involved with running for trustee because for me, 3 important reasons. One, I think it's really important for young people to be invested in their communities by showing an interest in local government. So by becoming a trustee, I'm hoping to inspire that in the younger generation. Next, diversifying our economy is actually really important to me. While I love that Orland Park has all these corporate retail stores available to us, I just want to make sure that we aren't relying heavily on this as a source of revenue, as recent shopping trends are showing a path away from the traditional experience that Orland Park has to offer. So again, I just want to make sure we're looking towards our future, bringing in other options like entertainment to show that Orland Park has a successful future. And then finally, too, bringing civility back to Village Hall is really important, along with having representation that speaks on behalf of all concerns of residents in Orland Park. So all 3 of those actually work really well to reach my overarching goal, which is to get more young people interested in visiting Orland Park and then hopefully settling up roots in here.
Thank you, Amy. Chris, tell us a little bit about you and the reasons you're running for trustee.
Sure. I mean, first off, I want to thank the Chamber and the Small Business Advisory Council and you, Elliot, for hosting this event. It's a great opportunity for us to get to reach out to people in the business community and other residents of Orland Park, which is great. So I've lived in Orland Park since March of 2012. For the last 4 years, I volunteered as the district-wide president of the Orland 135's Parents for Education. That's the volunteer organization that raises about $100,000 every year in support of our students and teachers. I am a union carpenter. I actually have been working directly for the Carpenters Union for the last 15 years. Through the Carpenters Union, I actually teach a leadership program at our International Training Center called Collaborative Leadership. I mean, we fly out a few 100 small business owners, project managers, superintendents, engineers, and I teach them a program that gives them skills on working with people with different personality types based on DISC profiles. And a big part of that is a communications model that teaches active listening and, trying to involve other stakeholders in decision making and planning. And, I think that's a skill that we, could really use on our village board. Since this campaign started, I've knocked on, well over 1,000 doors, talked to hundreds of residents to, hear what they want to have in our community. I mean, and that's what collaboration really is actually getting out there and listening to other people. Because Orland is a great town with lots of hardworking and interesting and smart people. I genuinely believe, a big part of continuing Orland Park's growth and, us thriving as a community is speaking honestly with residents about the challenges that we face and listening to them about concerns they share. I mean, my view is that in the last 4 years, we've seen village leadership be very disrespectful to residents when they've brought concerns to the board and, less than honest about, both our challenges and the accomplishments that we've had in the village, so I'm really running, my biggest motivating factor is to just bring honesty and candor, and an open, spirit of collaboration with our residents and small business owners.
All right, thank you. So we're going to let Derek catch up when he gets on. But we're also going to hit on that civility and unity portion of what you talked about, Amy. And I think what you alluded to, Chris, in a minute. But what I want to start with is economic development, because, we're here talking with chamber members and supporting small businesses and economic development is crucial during this time as businesses look to recover from the pandemic. So much like I did before, I'm going to ask you a broad question. And you can incorporate the I-80 corridor. You can incorporate your feelings about the mall. We can talk about, whatever you feel will help spark economic development in the village of Orland Park. So, Amy, tell us your thoughts on that. What plans do you have, and what are your priorities for economic development?
Again, we just want to make sure that Orland Park is a successful village, and economic development is really important. There are a lot of opportunities in Orland to build upon this. Again, as you mentioned, the I-80 corridor, but to me specifically, I'm actually really amped up for the potential at the downtown triangle. I work in Chicago, so I take the metro at 143rd and LaGrange every single day. So being there, I get a lot of time to just think about all the things that we can do here. And one thing, I've also been out, I've been knocking on doors, I think at over 1,700 at this point, and residents are telling me they want a downtown walkable area. And I think we deserve that, because a lot of people my age, when we come to Orland Park, fortunately, we're just coming here to eat and to shop. And while we have a lot of great stores here, I think we need to look into other avenues like entertainment, because people were going to downtown LaGrange, Downers Grove, downtown Frankfort, all of these other locations that have a downtown walkable area that people want to be in. So I think too, that's a great way to, again, incorporate other avenues such as entertainment, but more local businesses and just to support the community. And again, there at the Metro or at the Downtown Triangle, we can also amplify programs that already exist, such as the summer's farmers markets there that happen on Thursdays, and just ways to get people attracted and coming into Orland to spend their time and their money here.
Thank you. Chris?
Yeah, before I jump on, I mean, whoever's hosting, whether it's Patty or Felicitas, can somebody mark Derek as a panelist? You should be able to find him in your list of participants and promote him to panelist so that he can participate. I don't know why he's having these challenges, but he was here on time. You know, as far as economic development, you know, we have, you know, my understanding of the whole I-80 corridor is that for many years, the actual property owner out there was a little bit challenging to work with, and, you know, thought that there had to be a, you know, a much greater value on the land that they wanted to sell. But, you know, Mayor McLaughlin did set up, you know, a lot of infrastructure out there to bring stuff in. I mean, I would much rather see us focus on the economic development things of, you know, offering incentives like TIFs, you know, out in the I-80 corridor. I mean, there's so many levers that you can pull. I do think that we need to pivot away from retail as much as possible to grow like the total estimated assessed value of, you know, Orland Park's commercial properties, you know, whether that's like industrial manufacturing. I mean, there's lots of opportunities down there. You know, I'm a trustee on the Chicago Transit Authority's Retiree Healthcare Trust. It's a $1 billion fund, publicly funded, you know, through contributions from Chicago Transit Authority employees. But, you know, we have a large asset allocation to, you know, real estate investment. And I've spoken with many, you know, large developers. I mean, you know, $1 billion real estate development funds. And they say that a lot of other cities are and corporate clients are starting to pivot to hub and spoke models of, you know, corporate office use. And, you know, it would be really, I think Orland Park is like perfectly poised for us to try to like, you know, leverage some of those relationships that I have to, you know, get the large corporate clients. You know, you still have your C-suite executives that go downtown every day, but a lot of the other employees, you know, could be in office towers in Orland Park. And, you know, with that I-80 corridor lying in Will County, you know, that comes along with the 10%, you know, property tax, you know, that Will County has rather than the 25%, you know, corporate tax that Cook County has. So, I mean, Orland Park is in a great position to, you know, develop some of those things. And it would also be a great asset for, you know, Orland Park residents who, you know, travel downtown every day if their office was along the I-80 corridor rather than, you know, having to commute to the city. You know, I know lots of people who are successful Sandberg graduates who end up, you know, relocating out of Orland Park. And, you know, I think that we can, you know, work to retain that talent here along with, you know, bringing in some corporate clients, you know, which is going to diversify our economy and, you know, help a lot of that economic development. You know, we haven't seen anything in the last 4 years. You know, the real estate, or I should say the retail sales tax that we've, you know, earned in the village has been exactly the same for the last 4 years. So there hasn't been, you know, any real growth in the retail sector or in any other sector in the last 4 years. And, you know, I'm hoping to change that. But I'll stop because I know that was a little bit long.
No, that's okay. And I want to go back to you on retail. I do want to give Derek, I know you were trying to get in. So for the record, Derek has been working on it. He's not late. He was on time. We live in the era of Zoom, at least for a little bit longer. So Derek, just introduce yourself. Tell folks why you're running for trustee. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So once again, I apologize for that, guys. A little bit of a technical glitch this morning, so my apologies. First and foremost, thank you to the Chamber of Commerce. Thank you to the SBAC for hosting this event. Really looking forward to getting to talk with each of you guys, letting everything flow really well for this. So first and foremost, my name is Derek Rinaldi. I am a local business owner here in Orland Park. I run Black Paw Home Inspections. My business started in April of 2012. I've been an Orland resident since 2012 as well. We actually purchased my wife's parents' home. A little bit of background for myself. I graduated from University of Illinois at Chicago with a degree in architecture. I worked for Aldridge Electric for 8 years as a drafting department manager and a project engineer. Some of the project I worked on with them were the Red Line, Blue Line signal restoration project, the Minneapolis North Star light rail expansion, as well as the Block 37 expansion project. As far as for myself, one of the whole reasons that I'm running is there's been a distinct lack of transparency in Orland Park with the current administration. There is no forward-thinking plan at all. I've been hearing talks of, oh, we need to get this going, we need to get this going, but there's no captain in front of this ship right now. So one of the big things for us is I want to make sure that we're laying out a unified plan, talking to businesses, talking to residents, making sure that everyone here is on the same page.
All right, thank you. So I'm going to give you another opportunity to get caught up here. Okay.
Sure.
And that is in a very broad sense, using all of the tools that Orland Park has in its toolbox. What are your feelings on ways to spark the Village of Orland Park economy as folks recover from the pandemic?
Yeah, absolutely. So the big thing here is we need to reach out to local residents, as myself, Chris and Amy, Pat and Dan have all been doing, making sure we're talking to everybody, seeing what their voices are, what they want us to do, so that we're all reaching for the same goals. The biggest thing for me is we need to sit down with business owners and we need to talk to them directly to see, okay, how were you handled during the pandemic? How did your business struggle? Did it struggle? What options do you need to help your business reopen and reopen safely? Whether this is rent relief programs, tax incentive programs, or simply some type of a deferral program to get customers back into these businesses, but doing so safely.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Chris, I want to go back and pivot to a comment you made about retail. And then I'm going to take it to the whole panel. So actually, you guys jump in when Chris is done. And the question was, you talked about removing the emphasis from retail and sort of redirecting it. I think that's something that you sort of touched on in your question. I don't want to misframe anything that you said, but with the mall in Orland Park being such a big economic driver of the village, the question is, can you do that while still supporting the mall? And how do you really facilitate that shift to other industries when retail is such a big part of the village's economy? So I'll put that to you. It's a two-part question.
Sure. Well, I think the real estate or the sales tax in Orland Park makes up about 37% of our budget. I mean, we get $21 million every single year from sales tax, which is mostly retail. But, I mean, there are going to be market pressures that are going to force Simon to, pivot away from the indoor model. Indoor malls are dying, for various reasons. We all know that. I think that it's, Pollyannish to ignore those market pressures and for us to continue, never-ending tax grants over to the mall. I mean, especially when those things don't come along with any, strings attached to help address the real concerns that we have and, support our police and making sure that the mall stays safe. I mean, we gave $8.5 million in money over to Simon Properties when they brought in Von Maur across, our different districts. And, that was no strings attached. And, that was an opportunity for the village to really listen to resident concerns, and improve that safety stuff. I mean, I agree that the mall is, an important economic engine in Orland Park, but I think that it makes up, about $5.5 million in total revenue in the village, which is not, I mean, we don't want to lose that, but that's certainly not catastrophic. I mean, it's not, it's 4 or 5% of, the village's total budget every year. So there are other things that we can do, but, I just don't want to be tying ourselves to the mast of a sinking ship necessarily. And I think that those market pressures are going to force the mall to do things like take the roof off, to be more like Bolingbrook Promenade and, Oak Brook Mall, where, people feel very safe, even if, maybe the statistics, if, Mayor Pekow is telling us the truth, that the statistics are that Orland is the safest place on the planet, maybe, that that flies in the face of what residents say. And, we need to address how residents feel by listening to them and doing the things that would make them feel safe, even if the data might show that people feel like it's unsafe unjustly. Because it's cliche, but perception is reality, and we need to change that perception at the mall, not, pretend that it's not our problem. It should be the problem of the village.
Thank you, Chris. Amy, your thoughts on the mall and the shift perhaps away from retail?
So I do just want to elaborate some on what Chris was saying. I've been talking to residents, and there's a big concern with public safety at the mall. And as we're saying, like Mayor Keith Peacock keeps saying that the mall is the safest place in the world, but that doesn't change the fact that residents are feeling unsafe to go and shop there. So that needs to be addressed, because not only do we want people shopping in our mall, and there are still, with the trends of shopping changing in the future, these businesses are still here in the mall now, and we need to make sure that we're supporting them. So, but the residents' concerns need to be addressed. They need to know that we are working on ways then to make the mall feel safer when you're shopping out in Orland Park. So we have some ideas as far as how to manage that. That would be having our police officers actually there in a satellite system right at the mall. So if an incident occurs, our police are right there to handle the situation immediately. But then also too, maybe even lighting up the parking lot a little bit more to provide customers a safer feel as they're going in and out of the mall. But again, with the changing trends in shopping, we still have these businesses here. They still need traffic to come in and out of their stores, and we need to support them by supporting the residents to feel safe to go in there.
Thank you, Amy. Eric?
So absolutely, just to touch on what Amy and Chris both were saying. So I live just east of the mall. Perception of the mall right now is that it's an unsafe place to go. A lot of people don't feel comfortable shopping there, and that's something that we need to change perception of. Just as Amy said, one of the biggest things that we can do is talking with the police department, getting a satellite office in there. There's nothing wrong with Simon's Mall security that's there now, but when there is an incident that happens there, it's great to have our police force already there to help with the area. One of the proposals was having, I believe it was AMC open where the Sears used to be. Theaters right now are struggling retail wise as it is. So adding another gathering space where Sears was at, it's not going to be what the residents of Orland want. We need to talk to what the people here actually want and develop the mall in that respect. One of the things that we've already been looking at is, again, talking with Simon, taking the roof off the mall, making it an open air space, something like Yorktown or Oakbrook Mall, something so we can have a more unified gathering space.
So I asked, there was a question in the chat, and I want to ask all of you. Have you been to Orland Park Mall recently to sort of get a flavor for what's going on there now that things are beginning to change with the pandemic?
So I was there over Christmas, and then I was there again about a month ago. Unfortunately, I'm seeing a lot of people still walking around in the gathering spaces of the mall without masks. I'm not comfortable with that personally. I know we recently lifted the mask mandate in Orland, but that is kind of flies in the face of a lot of business owners that are in the mall. I am glad to see that a lot of the business owners in the malls themselves have the signs out that say, hey, you're not coming in here unless you're wearing a mask. So the fact that the business owners have taken it upon themselves to kind of go against PCAO's orders of lifting the mask mandate, I think that's a fantastic way to handle things.
Anybody else want to weigh in?
I buy my jeans from a store in the mall exclusively, so I'm there a lot actually. But I myself, I don't feel unsafe when I'm at the mall. But again, I'm not going to dismiss the concerns of our community by saying you're wrong. So that's just, to me, I do go to the mall a lot. I'm there all the time. American Eagle jeans, let's do it. But again, we got to make sure that our residents feel safe, and we're supporting our businesses while we are in Orland Park.
Okay, Chris.
Yeah, I was at the mall recently just before Valentine's weekend, which will stand out in my mind forever because it was so frigid while I was out knocking doors that I thought I needed a new coat. So I went to some of the department stores to try to see if there was a dressier, warm coat. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to find anything. But yeah, I mean, I personally feel that the mall is very safe. But like I said, I mean, you can't ignore what the residents of Orland Park feel, and what people in other towns feel. If everyone's diverting, their retail activity to Oak Brook and other places, I mean, that's obviously going to, hurt all of the ancillary businesses that get overflow from the mall. It's, going to hurt our retail tax generation, which, we've seen there's been no growth in that in 4 years. So, I mean, it's a real problem that has to be addressed, even if it's only a perceived problem.
All right, so let's shift our focus for a moment on unity. And this is what this came from chamber members, because businesses like certainty and they like when government works. Okay, so the question that's my own editorial. So the question is, if there is a divided city council, I'm sorry, board of trustees, or if there is, a mayor and the board of trustees has folks who don't feel the same way, right? How are you going to promote unity and efficiency and getting things done and put good economic policy and policies in general over politics? And I will start with Amy, with you on this, because you mentioned civility during your opening.
Definitely. So I think we need leadership that's all working together and cooperating. It is disappointing to see some instances that are currently happening with the board. It's just, we aren't getting along, and the village sees that. And to me, that's inappropriate. We're all here for Orland Park. We all want to make sure that we're doing the best that we can to support the businesses, the village, everybody that's inside of Orland Park. So I just think, we need to have open dialogue constantly. We need to be listening as well as speaking to residents, but we need to listen to the other people on the board and just together and just to communicate, because we're all in this for the same thing. Again, we all want to better the residents in Orland Park and the future of Orland. So to me, that's just what unity means to me, is working together and being collaborative. And even if I might personally not agree with you, if the point you're saying will benefit Orland Park's residents and businesses in the future, then that needs to be taken into consideration.
Chris?
Well, I feel like this is a softball for me, Elliot, but so, I appreciate that, because, I mean, when I actually go out and teach small business owners and project managers of, large and small construction companies, I mean, it's about collaboration. I mean, it means listening to other people, involving them in planning and, decision-making process as much as you possibly can. I also think that, like, a big part of having a really functioning, well-running local government is that you have to do as much business as you can in front of the public eye. One of the things that have changed, in the last 4 years is we've seen them eliminate some of the public commissions that allowed people to participate and provide feedback into, the decision-making process. I mean, I think that we could bring some of those things back. We've seen, lots of some of the revenue tax sharing agreements that Mayor Pekow has promoted, be all of it formed, circumventing the Open Meetings Act by, trustees, going to meet with people individually or in pairs so that, they don't trigger Open Meetings Act requirements. And then those things get put on the consent agenda. They just get approved, in bulk with other things. And, for businesses and residents to understand, how we can work together. I mean, all that stuff should be done in, as much of a public forum as you possibly can, so that you get to see people discuss what their views are in different policy positions, rather than just yes or no votes on, consent agenda items that have 26, different things on it. And further, a lot of it is just about, temperament. I mean, you have to be able to listen to criticism in a way that you don't feel like it's criticism. They're just pushing a different viewpoint, and you have to respect other people's viewpoints. And that's why, we've been out knocking on doors and talking to people and be on the phone, because, we want to hear what residents and business owners have to say.
Derek, your thoughts on unity and civility amongst the board of trustees?
Yeah, absolutely. Just to amplify what Chris and Amy have both already said, collaboration, communication, and transparency. Stuff's not going to get done if everyone's arguing over everything at every single turn. This is the whole reason why we've been talking with residents, while we've been communicating with everybody, to make sure that we're listening to what everybody wants, what everybody needs, and to make sure that, yeah, we all have our own individual voices, but we're all on the same page. We want to move Orland Park forward together. We want to do it in a way that's transparent to everybody and isn't something that's, a behind doors, closed office meeting that nobody knows what's going on until things have already passed. That's not going to make people trust their government. That's not going to make people, it's not going to give them what they want. So the biggest thing for me is making sure that we're doing things in an open and transparent way and communicating with everyone to show that, hey, we're here for you guys. We work for you. We don't work for ourselves.
Thank you. So coming in, if you're elected, what is your number one priority? I mean, what do you want when people watch this or are watching now, folks to know you're going to come in and fight for if you are on the Village of Orland Park Board of Trustees? Chris?
So I think that we really need to focus on a little bit more transparency in our budget process and, involving residents more in our budget process. If you ever actually take a look at the Orland Park budget, it looks more like an actuary's report or an auditor's summary, rather than having like a lot of line item pieces in there. I mean, our last budget in 2020 that we're operating under right now, I mean, it had $151 million in, anticipated revenues, but we had $155 million in anticipated expenditures. I mean, that's a budget deficit no matter how you cut it. I mean, and that has nothing to do with any kind of sales tax being down, during the pandemic. It's, but we've had leadership who says, oh, we've done a great job, trimming fat and things like that. I mean, I don't think that there was a lot of found money in Orland Park. And, we need to have more transparency and community involvement in this process. And the documents themselves should reflect, where we're spending our money to, so that residents can know what things there are, that we possibly could cut. So keeping, along that same line about the budget, we had 10 or 11 consecutive years under Mayor McLaughlin where, our levy did not increase, and we need to continue that. And at the same time, we have to be growing our estimated assessed value in the village because, if that levy stays the same and you bring in more businesses that are not necessarily residential rooftops, that's going to lower the per rata share of property taxes that homeowners and businesses pay. The biggest driver of property taxes in our village is the school districts. And, if we keep having residential growth outpacing industrial and commercial, we're going to continue to see our taxes rise. And there's just not enough services to cut out of the budget to offset that. So we really have to, be honest with our budget process, transparent with the budget, and, really try to grow that, non-residential EAV in the village to drive down taxes for everyone.
Thank you. Derek, day one, what's your top priority?
So biggest thing for me is sitting down, not only with yourselves, the Chamber of Commerce, but also sitting down with local business owners and local property management companies and saying, okay, we're still in a pandemic. Things are hopefully changing towards the better right now. What can we do as your elected officials to help you navigate out of this, to help you reopen, to help you get more customers safely into your businesses in a way that's both beneficial to you and the people that are going to be shopping or perusing your stores. The other thing on top of that is Chris just kind of touched on a little bit is, yeah, having new residences is great for me personally as a property inspector, but that doesn't help the village as a whole. So one of the things that I would like to sit down with and saying like, okay, Silver Lakes is up for sale right now. So there's the possibility of adding more residential there. Well, what can we do to offset that residential increase by having some of these vacancies in the businesses turn around and have more businesses that are put into these vacant spots? So is that a rent-free situation for 3 to 6 months? Is it a tax referral system? Something we can do to get more businesses in these vacancies.
Thank you. Amy?
So as I mentioned in the beginning of it's really important for me for young people to show an interest in their local government, as this is where our votes carry the most weight. But as far as day one, that's I think going to be a longer process to get more the youth interested in what we're doing here. But as you're saying too, with diversifying the economy, that's also a big priority of mine. But I'm going to say in this instance, day one is just going to be, again, having that civility back to Village Hall and making sure that our community, whether in the form of residents, in forms of businesses, feels comfortable talking with us and having a dialogue about whatever concerns are bothering them and making sure that we're addressing those to the best of our ability and taking those seriously. I've heard many people talk to me as I've been out knocking on the door saying that when they have a concern and they bring it up to the village board, they feel dismissed and their matter is unimportant by our current mayor and some of the people on the board of trustees, which to me, that's not what the point of an elected official is. So I'm just really excited to bring that back. Orland Park, we are here for you. We want to talk with you. We want to hear about what you want out of our future of Orland Park, no matter if you're a visitor, if you're a resident here, if you're a business, we are here for you and we want to support you.
Okay, so Amy, you gave me a great transition. I will tell you, young people love Little League, right? So and all different, so Little League in the general sense. So I asked the earlier panel their thoughts on how to utilize Orland Park's green space, whether it's forest preserves, fields to help spark economic development and market Orland Park. So since you again opened the door, Amy, I'm going to let you take this one first. But what are your plans for Orland Park green spaces?
I love this question, so thank you for asking. And two, it's really great. We've been endorsed by the Sierra Club, so glad to tackle this on in our week of excitement with environment and green spaces. But so Dan, in his time as mayor, he implemented the Open Lands program, and that was started in 1995. That has more than 300 acres of open land in Orland Park reserved for natural preserves and such. And I do think it's important, to try and get the best out that we can of these resources. So actually, I was talking to a gentleman before. The Orland Park's Lightning softball team, this was before I was here or around, but he mentioned too that we used to have a lot more tournaments involving this team, and that recently they've gone over to Downers Grove or something to practice, and just facilitating that and seeing if we can keep programs and tournaments like that here would be great. But also too, I would love to see on some of these open spaces that we have implementing some programs like a community garden. I think that is a great way to get residents, young and old, out into the community and doing something great with their hands. And further along, I would love to use the literal fruits of our labor to donate that food to food insecure families in the surrounding neighborhoods. But also too, kind of on the green spaces, I'm really looking forward to looking into municipal composting. I think this is a great way for Orland Park to be sustainable and thinking for our future. And I've done initial research, and villages like Oak Park and Downers Grove already do this, but it's at little to no cost to add this program onto the existing trash services that Orland Park has. And I think just utilizing our green spaces is a good way to make sure Orland Park is doing the best with our resources available.
Thank you, Derek.
Absolutely. Green spaces throughout Orland is incredibly important. That was one of the, in my opinion, greatest things that Dan McLaughlin had put in progress was the Open Lands project. It is fantastic that you can go pretty much anywhere in Orland and you're going to see a park, you're going to see green space. The grasslands is fantastic. The last thing we want is just to see concrete upon asphalt upon business, with no greenery or no anything around. We have these gathering spaces, we have these meeting spaces. They're pedestrian friendly, which is something that's fantastic for the future growth of Orland. As Amy kind of touched on, one of the things that would be fantastic is, so we have these open spaces, let's do something where we could have community pop-up events. Something that would be done safely, of course, because we have to keep in mind we are still in a pandemic. We want to keep residents and consumers safe. That's the key aspect here. But at the same time, is there a local farm stand business that doesn't have a way of getting their selves out into the community? Well, here over the summer, we're going to have a pop-up event where you guys can share your wares with everybody. I think that would be a fantastic way to utilize the different green space that we have and also project a sense of civility to increase the amount of economics that we have as well.
Thank you. Same question to you, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we should do, to go right back to what you asked, I think that we should do as much as we can with green spaces, to promote people coming into Orland Park, to, patronize local businesses, restaurants, bars, all those kinds of things, maybe do some ancillary shopping, while you got an hour and a half in between your Little League games at the tournament, maybe you go hit up a small retail store or something, but those things are obviously going to help our small businesses. It's going to promote, that sales tax that we've seen, no growth in the last 4 years. So, I mean, I'm good with those things, and I'm really interested more in listening to businesses, especially to see what kind of events would bring people in. I thought the chamber did an excellent job a few years ago coming up with the Arts and Drafts, event that you guys do, only to see the village, create their own micro brewery thing that they launched a week ahead of time. And to me, it just seems foolish to use some of our open spaces in Orland Park for, the government to crowd out local investment. I mean, if something that's happening in the private sector that our business community has put together on its own, like almost anything, we should could step in and say, how can we help and how can we assist you, rather than launching our own event that contradicts the thing that the private sector put forward. If there are areas where we can, do little league tournaments or other kind of sporting events. I mean, I'm personally a triathlete. I love to, ride our bike paths around. I mean, if there was a way to host something like that in Orland Park, if it brings people in to spend money here, that's, I think great for everybody. We just have to make sure that we're, listening to residents to make sure that we're not hosting events in people's neighborhoods necessarily if they're opposed to those. I know recently there was a little bit of controversy with some of the park redevelopments where people in neighborhoods didn't have any idea what was happening until the construction equipment showed up, and only to find out they were putting in some pretty higher end baseball fields, which were nice, but there was no parking in those parks. There was views that were going to be obstructed. So we definitely need to leverage our green spaces as much as we can where appropriate. Centennial West, the John Humphrey area, and maybe other areas that we can acquire and develop into green spaces. But I want to do all those things in partnership, to make sure that it's actually improving things for businesses and not crowding out private investment.
Okay, so I've got one more question and then maybe a little one if we have time, and then I'm going to let you guys close. But my question is, during the first panel this morning, one of the candidates talked about some things that the prior administration had done well. And my question is, as you sit here on Zoom today, tell me one thing you think is going well right now in the village of Orland Park that you'd like to continue if you're elected as trustee. And there's probably lots of things you feel is going right. So, or may, but I'm asking you to pick one. So Chris, I'll start with you.
So the one area where I give, great compliments to like Mayor Pekow is, he's always comfortable to take a critical look at the budget and the way that we're doing things in the village. I mean, we absolutely have to be, careful stewards of taxpayer dollars. And, while I may disagree with him on some of the cuts that he's made, I do think that like you have to, perpetually, be looking for areas to improve. I know like the police in our, town make up like, nearly 45% of our budget. I think they do an absolutely wonderful job, but we constantly need to be looking for ways to do better rather than to just, say, oh, everything is great in Orland Park. Some website called us, the safest in Orland Park so that they could sell us, home security systems. But so I appreciate Mayor Pekow, constantly looking for ways to, trim fat and things like that. And I would certainly continue to do that.
Thank you. Amy?
So during these unprecedented times with COVID, it was very stressful and nobody really knew how to handle this. So I did appreciate the board. They put through a shop local incentive where if you were going to restaurants and spending over $100, you'd get gift cards to put that back into the community. So I really did appreciate that. It's so hard, especially the restaurant industry, what's been going on and trying to keep safe. That was a good way to make sure that we're supporting our local businesses and keeping money coming into Orland Park. So that was a great job.
Thank you, Amy. Derek?
One of the things that I definitely appreciate with the way things have been handled is the police force in Orland Park. They've definitely been stepping up and taking things in the right direction, absolutely making people feel at least a little bit safer. We did have some instances of, people being a little bit scared during the times when, rioting and looting was happening and things like that. And there was at least an effort to, hey, things are still okay. The city or the village is still safe. Nobody's coming and busting down your doors or anything like that. So I do feel that that was handled very well.
Wonderful. So if anyone can answer this quickly, we didn't get it to at the first panel, but it's a question about the Silver Lake Country Club property, which is a kind of specific question. But the question is, what do you wish for with respect to the future of the Silver Lake Country Club property? But you got to do it pretty quickly and then you can follow up via email. So anybody want to take that?
I'll jump on that right away. Absolutely.
Okay.
So I kind of touched on that a little bit earlier, but the big thing for me is I respect what the Coghill family is doing and why they want to put the property up for sale. I'm a little bit leery about the idea of adding more residential space because our school systems in this area, I've got sons at both Prairie and Liberty. Those schools are already at max capacity as it is. Adding more residential to that area isn't the best idea for Orland right now. One, it's going to affect our property taxes, and two, it's going to affect our school system as well. I would like to reach out directly with not only the chamber's help, but also to sit down with the owners of Silver Lake Country Club and see what we can do to maximize this, to either get a new buyer for the country club itself, or to rethink the way they're handling the property.
That was quick. We got time for other responses.
I've knocked on a lot of doors around the people that live directly around Silver Lake, and a lot of them have expressed interest in the municipality trying to step in and, retain at least a portion of the golf course as like a public course. I would certainly hope that as that area gets rezoned, if it does get sold, that, it's not track homes and fully subdivision. I mean, maybe we could, try to get the developer to do something like Odyssey Country Club, where it's a mix of housing and golf course, along with a banquet facility as well. Because like Derek said, it's going to put a lot more pressure on our schools. And, we haven't seen us keeping pace with, like I say, that growth, to offset those residential property taxes because of the burden on the school district. So, we have to keep focusing on that economic development to make sure that when that residential does come in, it has, a low impact on everyone else's property taxes.
About 15 seconds, Amy.
And just really quickly to add on to that, I do think too, I've talked to residents who like the idea of keeping that open for entertainment. Someone even mentioned, why don't we make it a Topgolf? See if they want to come here. But so again, just keeping that experience, something that we can do entertainment based, would be something that I appreciate as someone who lives right by the country club over there.
All right, Joyce, do we have a minute for folks to close?
Yes, we do.
Wonderful, Joyce. Okay, and to the earlier panel, please send us your responses as well so we can have you address that issue too. Okay, so a minute for everybody. We will start in the opposite order from which we started, if I can remember what that was. But I know, Derek, you were the last guy on because of tech issues. So you start us out for a minute.
Last guy on, first guy out. Absolutely. So once again, I just want to thank the SBAC as well as the Orland Park Chamber of Commerce for hosting this event today. This was fantastic. I hope you guys got a chance to hear our vision for what we want to see for the future of Orland Park. Biggest thing for me right now is just making sure that we can all work together on this. All of us are coming from different walks of life, but we all have a unified vision to kind of push Orland Park forward and making sure that we're all going in the same aspect in the same way. So thank you again so much for having us, and I look forward to working with all of you.
Thank you. Chris?
Yeah, I just also want to thank the SBAC and the Chamber again for hosting this. Elliot, you did a great job as the moderator. In closing, I just think that like the most important issue facing Orland Park is really just, open, honest, transparent discussions about the challenges that we face as a village and, how to move everyone forward. I mean, there are lots of, fantastic executives, business owners, residents, people from all different sectors in our village, and if we can really leverage all the ideas that people have here, we'll be very successful moving forward. And, that's really what I want to do is take the collaboration that I've taught to, hundreds of other companies and, bring it to our village board.
Thank you so much, Chris. Amy?
So again, thank you, the Chamber of Commerce and the SBAC, for this opportunity. I've had a lot of fun talking about our ideas for Orland, and I just really want to say one thing that I think separates our slate apart is that we are out there in the field on the phones, knocking doors, listening to our community and asking them what they want out of their local government, and we're here to support that. So whether that's the residents, the businesses, Orland, we're here for you. We're really excited to work and move Orland Park forward, and I just can't wait to get involved and see what's in store for Orland's future.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you all so much for joining us. It was a great conversation.
We hope this program provided helpful information ahead of the voting on April in Orland Park. We thank the 6 candidates for joining us today, and a special thank you for Elliot and his team from SBAC for their assistance and guidance. We hope you all can join us at our next chamber membership meeting, which is on April 28th. We will be welcoming our guest speaker, Rob Waymire, or Waymire Photography, who will present conceptual portraiture for business, education, and healthcare clients. And the topic is executive portraiture and headshots, which is right for you. More information and registration can be found on the Chamber website at orlandparkchamber.org. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.